All right. I think we're ready. Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle Loftus. This is Graham Roop. We are both from the PayPal Large Merchant Integration team, and we work with Express Checkout day in and day out for 8 hours a day. So this is, any question you have about Express Checkout, we're not afraid to answer it. And feel free to stump us, or stump Graham, actually. But this is the ins and outs of Express Checkout. It's not a basic introductory session on Express Checkout, so hopefully you're somewhat familiar with it, or PayPal payments in general, so you can see how you can use Express Checkout best for your website. Here's the general agenda. We're going to be talking about the Express Checkout APIs and different ways that you can use them. We'll just go over a quick overview. Like I said, it's not going to be a very basic session, but just refresher. Go over the best practices for integrating Express Checkout. That way we've seen some pretty weird integrations of PayPal on websites, different places where buttons shouldn't be, putting where you can set PayPal in the footer where you can actually click to pay. That doesn't work. And then Graham will be going over the advanced features. So I'll go ahead and run in here. And if you guys don't already know, PayPal's Express Checkout is our bread and butter for taking PayPal payments. As far as PayPal payments go, we've got our Website Payment Standard product, we've got our Website Payments Pro, but if you're using Website Payments Pro, you have to integrate Express Checkout. That's just, they come together basically. If you've got your own credit card processor, like what we deal with every day with our large merchants, they're usually using, Chase Payment Tech or Payflow, and then PayPal's Express Checkout is the way that you take the PayPal payments. Nobody's really using Website Payment Standard because it's a one-way asynchronous type of payment rather than the Express Checkout APIs where you're getting a real-time communication back and forth. So it's also a way to give your customers the best experience with PayPal, because rather than just sending them off to PayPal to make the payment, you have control over them because they have to go authenticate and come back, review their payment, and then finish it. So you still have control of them rather than leaving them at PayPal. The Website Payment Standard product is great for our smaller merchants because it's so easy to set up. There's no APIs, you just paste some code on there. But with Express Checkout, you really keep control of the customer. And then obviously the benefits of how you can use it, where it's most of the customers are going to click PayPal Express Checkout earlier in the checkout flow, and we'll go over that in the next slide. Actually, just a placement. And that'll help increase your overall sales and conversion because it shows up earlier. It helps them get through the checkout quicker. The main 3 API calls that you go through are set, get, do, and that's just to create your basic PayPal payment. There's obviously our delayed settlement so that you can do authorization and settlement. You can do multiple authorizations, multiple settlements, so we'll go through that as well. But those are the basic calls. Set Express Checkout creates a session. Get Express Checkout will give you the customer details, so you know their name, email address, phone number, and then do Express Checkout is to create the actual transaction. Like I was mentioning, the most popular method of paying with PayPal with the Express Checkout integration is the placement on the shopping cart page. With any of the integrations that we do in our team, we require that that's there because that's how 70 to 80% of the customers prefer to pay, because they know it's a quicker checkout. When I'm going through paying with, and I know a site offers PayPal, if I don't see it on the cart page, I may go to one of their competitors that does have it that way, because I don't want to go through 7 different manual forms of entry. I just want to click Pay with PayPal, log in, and then they finish the payment. There's no huge shipping address form, billing address form to go through. So you go with the shopping cart. From the shopping cart, you go to log in, review, and then once you've authenticated PayPal with those 2 screens, you go to review the order, and then you confirm the payment. And then the other piece of it, it's a 2-part integration, is you've got it on the shopping cart, and then you also need to have on the payment page where you do go through those manual entry forms, but then it's alongside the other payment methods, credit card, bill me later, and then it goes to login review, and then you come back to finalize it. Typically, you don't have a final review. You just go straight to confirmation if it's in this method, because you already know the final amount, shipping, and whatnot. Getting into the best practices, these are the main pieces that we kind of score our merchants on as we're helping them. We'll typically, in a large merchant area at least, we actually make some mock-ups and show them exactly how it's best placed, and this is kind of the rules that we follow. So like I said, you need to have the Express Checkout button on the shopping cart page. Otherwise, people may not know you offer it right away. And it also lets them know that they're going to have to go through and enter in their shipping address, billing address, phone number, email address, rather than getting it from PayPal and having that ready to go for you. It's best to allow for guest checkout. I personally don't like creating accounts on merchant sites. It's better just to have them go through the purchase, finalize it. You as a merchant, you can store the details about the customer and the purchase, but you don't have to have them create an account because it's going to create even more pages. And then when they come back from PayPal, so they go click on from the cart, they go to PayPal login review. You want to have two or less pages at your site. So ideally, you just go to a final review and you're done. You may have some additional information you want to collect, so you can have it before the final review page. But that's kind of the key. We've found that sweet spot is two or less. If you have three, your conversion is going to start dropping because they're tired of clicking through pages. The quicker you can get them through and actually place their order, the better. That's just kind of payments 101, conversion 101. And then you obviously need to have PayPal also listed as a radio button on the payments page. So it's preferred to have it obviously on the shopping cart page, but people get to the payment page, they also expect to see it there as well. You also want to mention as soon as possible in your website, either the home page, product page, category pages, all of them if possible, that you offer PayPal, because when people are shopping for items, let's say you're shopping for a digital camera and you go on Google and someone finds your site on Google and they're looking for a Canon SLR, and they click on that, go straight to the product page. It's good to have that showing that you accept PayPal maybe on the side or in the footer. That way, if that's how they want to pay, they've got a balance of $900 in their account, they're looking for an $800 camera, they're like, all right, I'll just pay for it. It's, I know I've got the money, and you may sell them right then and there. As opposed to if they don't know you offer PayPal, they might go to a different competitor's website where they know offers PayPal. The second to last one is what is PayPal on the payments page alongside all the other payment methods. It's good to have a link there for people that may have considered using PayPal in the past but haven't created an account yet. Rather than them having to click on PayPal to go to PayPal, find out what it is they can click, we've got a hosted pop-up that you can display showing what PayPal is all about so they can answer some of the questions rather than going to PayPal and maybe abandoning their cart or trying to figure out how to back up. And then lastly, we recommend that you guys, the merchant does not host the images like the Express Checkout button on the cart or the payment page button. It's best to link straight to the PayPal images. That way, if we redo our logo, we're kind of resizing some of our acceptance logos and making them, not resizing, but redesigning them. Same logo, but like 3 years ago, we changed our logo, and we're still chasing merchants today. Hey, you've got a PayPal logo from 3 years ago on your website, and it just doesn't look professional. So if you host directly to us, you've got the latest and greatest right then and there. And then this may be new to a lot of you, but if you've made some purchases with PayPal in the past 6 months, you may have seen it, especially on eBay. This is the new uniform look and feel for the PayPal Express Checkout, Website Payment Standard, eBay payments. So if you notice in the past, if you're buying with a little Buy Now button on someone's website, like a smaller merchant, or if you're buying on buy.com through Express Checkout, or if you're buying on eBay, they all look like completely different experiences. We've made it now, and this is slowly rolling out. We're going to be ramping up over the next few months. This is what it's going to start looking like. And you can see the main key areas here. If you're currently passing in that header logo, that'll still show up, but there's a new parameter that we've updated in the documentation that you can send in the set call to show right here in this little mini logo. Line item details is something we came out with about a year ago, and now this actually shows up on the login page too before they've even logged into their account, this entire section. So it's even more important to start passing in those details because otherwise it's just going to say, I think it says total amount or total order, and it shows the amount and that's it. But as you can see here, it shows at PayPal what the order has in it. So if someone's got a question about what they're paying for, they don't remember how much they're paying, they may need to back up to go to your site, but instead they can see it right here, so they don't have to worry about that. Because right now they're obviously concerned with paying, and getting through that. And if they can't remember what the order amount is, they may back up. You don't want to lose them. Most of the other stuff's the same. Not a whole lot different. There's a little section here. Graham will show you later. You can put an extra note in. You can see the merchant name here. If you don't pass the logo, it'll show you their name up here. But everything else is pretty much the same. Like I was mentioning, the order details are very important. So if you want, you can, and we're strongly recommending this just so it shows up in the login and the cart page. In the set call, you can send in the order details so it shows up on the pages. And then also it's very important to send it in the do express checkout call so that it shows up in the customer's order details. If you just send in the set call, it's only going to affect what shows up on the login page and the review page. But if you send the do call, it'll show up in their email, their details in their account. It's pretty common. Someone might not remember what they purchased 3 months ago or a year ago when they're doing their taxes. They'd be like, what the heck is this? They may contact you because they don't remember buying it. They might think it's fraud or something like that. But it's going to show you, if you pass those in, it'll be like, oh, okay, that's where I bought my camera from. Error handling is another best practice. A lot of people just integrate EC and echo our error codes without considering what is being displayed to the customer. Some of our errors are perfectly fine to display to customers, but if you get a 10,001 internal error, the customer's not going to know what that is. So it's good to go through and message those to the customer. The different responses you can get as the ACK and your API request is going to be success, that it worked, success with warning that it worked, but there was something you should probably take a look at. We're still going to, like in the set call, we'll still give you a token, or in the do call, we'll still complete the payment, but there may be something weird that you want to take a look at. And then failure, obviously, you want to make sure to fix. Hopefully you get through most of those in development. But it's very good to log those. If you get failures, that way you can take a look at them later. Especially if you get a large number of the same area, you want to log those and set up alerts so that you notify yourself that those are happening on your website. Partial success is with our new parallel payments. Graham will be mentioning that later. But that is something where if you're sending payments to 2 different recipients with Express Checkout, one of the buckets might fail. So it's just a warning that one of them succeeded and one of them failed. Like I said, you want to check the error code, display a good customer message to the customer on errors that should be messaged to them. Like if the authorization fails, you can message the customer that you need to choose another payment method. And like I said, expect to have some declines. So you need to be ready for those. And then logging I had started to mention, but at a minimum, when you're working with our tech teams on trying to troubleshoot issues, you want to make sure to have the correlation ID. That way you can send us that ID and we can look it up in our system. Like if you're working with our merchant technical support team, I'm sure some of you have dealt with them or worked with them in the past. It's very helpful that way. They're not trying to figure out which account you're using, what time it happened, which API call it was. You can just say, here's the correlation ID. They know exactly what the request was associated with that and what you were seeing as response. And then the different pieces of error information that are important to log outside of the correlation ID is the timestamp it happened. The correlation ID that I just mentioned, we give you that 5-digit error code, which can help when you're working with us. We can say which error code were you receiving, and then you have your short and long message. And those are going to be good. If you want to display some of those, you can send them to the customer, but you also want to log that. That way, if you saw 10 errors in a day, you can see exactly what the short and long is without having to go to our website and look up what that was. Ideally, you'll want to store the entire API request and response, obviously with the credentials stripped out of it. Just don't have to have that public in your logs. Obviously, it's not going to be public anyway, but that way you're not just seeing that you have an error. You know where that error was stemmed from. So if you sent through some weird amount, you can see in your request what that amount was. And then for logging, we have some samples in our SDKs as well. Negative testing in our sandbox, some of you may be aware of it, some of you may not, but this is something that allows you to actually test, because usually in testing environments, everything's going to be a success unless you mess up. But you may want to test some real-life scenarios where you're going through our list of errors and you want to trigger one so you can see what it looks like in the API response. In the Developer Central account, if you're familiar with the sandbox, you've seen this screen before. This will have your list of test accounts. On the test accounts page, you go in to enable negative test mode, in the blue box there. And some of you may have enabled it on accident, not knowing what it was, and sent in just the right amount, and you keep getting the same error over and over again. You're like, what the heck's going on here? That would be why. And then when you have that enabled, you have there's a list in our sandbox user guide of the different APIs you can test errors with. So let's say you want to do a test with the set express checkout. You're going to use either of these two fields, whether you're using name value pair or SOAP, and then you send in the amount that you want the error triggered for. So if you want 10755, you send in the amount of $107.55. And then we have like 20 different APIs that you can use. I just copied and pasted in the set and the get just so you can see for each one what field it is that you use. And then production testing. This is something that a lot of people skip. They may do a lot of testing in our sandbox and think they're ready to go, and they just launch it to their live site. It's very important to, right before you launch, you can maybe point your staging server to our production environment so you can make sure you're linked up to the right account. See if there's anything you missed in the sandbox testing. So we recommend about a week beforehand you do some end-to-end scenarios. And then the main things that you want to test is processing a payment, simulating the settlement. So if you're doing delayed settlement, do an authorization and a capture. And then also process a refund so you can see end-to-end that all that's working. And then the steps to do that, you just create an account in the buyer account. You're going to hopefully have your seller account already set up if you're here and wanting to know the advanced features. You're already selling with it, but you're going to need a real buyer account with a real credit card. You may already have one that you can use. And then just point your stage environment to the live servers and process an order with that buyer account that you created and pay with PayPal. And with that, I'll turn it over to Graham.
So I want to talk about some of the other advanced features that PayPal offers inside of Express Checkout. Again, some of these have been around last year. You may have seen them presented, and some of them are brand new this year. And so there's a couple different settlement models that Express Checkout supports. The two ones that we use mostly are the sale, where you're doing an immediate settlement when the Do Express Checkout calls run. And the second one is when you set the payment action equal to order. So what payment action equal to order allows you to do is create a PayPal order ID when you run the Do Express Checkout call. And then from there, you can create multiple authorizations and do multiple captures on those authorization IDs. So if your site, for example, was doing like delayed fulfillment or was producing the actual item and then shipping it out, this would be a good model to follow because you could create that order ID, get the authorization, get the product ready to ship, and then when you are actually ready to ship the product, you can do the capture. This is the way we're integrating almost all of our large merchants these days because there's, of course, voice fulfillment delays or other things that, make them want to kind of copy what they do for credit card payments. And so here's an example of a sale transaction where when the Do Express Checkout calls run, at the top, as soon as you run the Do Express Checkout call, the capture's done for $100. We return back a transaction ID, of course, at that point that you'd want to save. And then if you need to do any exception processing like issue a refund, you could do that, and it would send the money back to the actual buyer's account. Now, in a more complicated scenario where you're using the payment action equal to order, in this case, you're able to create multiple authorizations. So in our example here, they created two authorizations, one for $30 and one for $45. But then they can take what did I hit? Sorry, don't hit that button. Anyway, so from there, they can actually take the authorizations and do multiple captures. So in this example, they just did one authorization, or one capture per authorization, but the APIs actually allow more than one capture per authorization, depending on the fulfillment model. And you're also able to do multiple refunds on each capture. Again, it kind of all depends on, the way you're processing payments now, and we tried to build this so you can mimic what you're doing with credit card payments. So, have you got anybody heard about mobile? Anybody seen anything about that today? So one of the brand new things we added was the mobile experience. So basically what we did is we took the Express Checkout integration, we changed the redirect URL, and based upon the redirect URL, when you send them over to PayPal, we display the mobile checkout pages. So if you already have an Express Checkout integration, it's as easy as changing the redirect URL over to PayPal, and then these pages show up. So again, this would be like the cart page if you were talking about a traditional website. After they redirect over to PayPal, they get this login page, which again, I'm sure you guys have seen several times today. And then the review page. So just like with a normal website using a regular Express Checkout, they're still going to return back to your mobile website, and you'd have to run the Do Express Checkout call. Again, the payment actions, whether you want to do immediate settlement with the payment action equal to sale, or use the payment action equal to order, are both supported in this flow. The in-context flow is what we're doing for digital goods. This was shown quite a few times already today. When this button's clicked, you would run the Set Express Checkout call, which would then open up this light box where they can log in. If they haven't already stored their information as they were demoing this morning, you get this pop-up window where you can log in or create an account, at which point, once everything has been completed through this pop-up, you redirect back to this page and you can run the Do Express Checkout call. Again, it's the exact same APIs, it's just a little different flow, a little different look and feel. So one of the things Kyle was showing earlier was, sometimes people jump over to PayPal from the shopping cart page, and sometimes they jump over to PayPal from the shopping cart page. Typically, when people are jumping over from the actual shopping cart page, we want the buttons on the PayPal side to say Pay Now, especially if you're not giving a review page after they return back from PayPal. So you're able to change these buttons on the PayPal page from Continue to Pay Now by adding user action equal to commit to the redirect URL. Some other things you're able to customize in the Set Express Checkout call is you're able to remove the shipping address, like if you're doing digital goods or some other type of payment where you don't need the shipping address, you can take this out. This note to seller field can be removed if you don't want to have buyers leave messages on PayPal. Here's an example of the shipping address not being shown. Two new items we added in the last month are this total type where you can show estimated total instead of total. So for example, if you're coming off the shopping cart page and you are going to ship out a physical good, at that point you probably don't know what the shipping address is, so you can't figure shipping, you can't figure tax. So we added this value so you can change this label so it says estimated total. Another thing we added is this note that will show up underneath the mini cart where you can say, okay, we don't know what the total is yet because we have no idea where you live, or whatever you want to say there. But those are two of the new things we added, which we really think are going to help out. Another thing we added is this description here, which is brand name, so you can change the actual name that shows up. This is very important if you have like one PayPal account that's receiving payments from multiple websites, which a lot of merchants do. So a few concluding thoughts. The Express Checkout flow really does provide the best PayPal experience as far as streamlined process, getting them through the checkout, getting your conversion where you want it. There's a lot of best practices. Kyle showed you those as far as button placement, logo placement, where to place PayPal on the payment page if you're also offering credit cards, which I'm sure most of you are. And again, there's a lot of advanced features, and I mean, honestly, we could stand up here for 4 hours and talk about all the features that are in Express Checkout. So go look at some of the guides. We tried to cover the ones we thought were, applicable to the majority of people and would help with conversion the most, but there's a lot more of them out there. They're all covered in the Express Checkout integration guide. And included in some of those ones that we covered today were the mobile experience, the in-context checkout, and the line item details. And we'll be right up here if you have any questions, or does anyone have questions now?
Hold on a second, we'll get the mic too.
Yes. When is the in-context checkout be available for us to use?
We don't have a firm date on that yet. I think they were hoping mid-November, but we don't have an exact date on that yet. But pretty soon, and they'll be releasing the documentation at the same time, so you can see.
No.
Not right now. No, we'll have it up. Probably within a month is the hope. But really, the changes for that are minimal. If do you have Express Checkout integrated already?
No, just
not yet. So you kind of start from scratch. We built the guide, assuming that you haven't, so that'll be good. You integrate the APIs that we just talked about, and then you also you embed a JavaScript link that we host, and then you reference some functions to have PayPal build that iframe.
So would you say that like the development effort to do the in-context checkout, if you have already Express Checkout, would be like a couple of hours?
Yeah, pretty minimal. Yeah.
2 hours probably. It took me 2 hours to get it working.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really just building that pop-up, and then after they authenticate, firing off that do Express Checkout from a different location.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a few questions, if you don't mind. So first is, what is the difference between V60 and V63 versions of API?
That's a tough one.
Because I saw a bigger update on documentation of PayPal Express Checkout, and a lot of stuff is just deprecated there.
Mm.
Okay, so that's a very long question. So what are the differences? So for the most part, everything's backwards compatible when you switch versions. So if you went from version 2.3 to version 65.1, everything should work backwards compatibility-wise. Like, for example, when I was showing those note and that estimated field, those are only supported after version 64, I believe. So really, we make changes and we do our best to make it backwards compatible. So if you're adding new stuff, I would suggest kind of running through and testing a few things, but everything should work the same.
And the main change you saw in the documentation was around the parallel payments that we talked about, where they added to the parameter names, they have payment request 0, payment request 1. That's what you're seeing. But the old parameters do still work. But if you're integrating, starting with that documentation going forward, we recommend that you start using those new fields. For the digital goods and context experience, we want, it came out after that, so we recommend that you integrate that way.
Okay, thank you. And is there a chance to increase a quantity of shipping options in the instant update API? Because 10 is not enough, I think. So is there a chance to do the change in the Express Checkout itself?
Are you saying more than 10 payment buckets?
Yeah.
At this time, that's the limit. I asked engineering, and they hadn't really considered raising it, but I can get with me later, and I'll get your information, and I'll check out with it again.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question about the billing agreement and recurring payments. Is there like a best practices to do this along with Express Checkout, or it should be a separate flow? Because if you want to enter in the billing agreement, can you integrate this within the Express Checkout flow so you can have maybe like an extra checkbox for the user to allow that, or how does it work?
What kind of business model are you speaking about specifically?
It could be a fixed amount, maybe like a subscription, let's say monthly charges, right? Or you can say, I want to pay this amount for the first month, and then after that every month, or like annually. Or,
sure. So the recurring payments product that we have is available across the board. The reference transaction product, I know, is underwritten, so it's kind of limited availability. But with reference transactions, you can do it at the same time using the Express Checkout APIs, so that you can charge that upfront amount and the reference transaction creation of that at the same time.
Does it change the flow?
Just slightly. It only changes the wording on the review page, so it'll show your contents on the left, and then I think we do have an example of the wording. It'll just say that you agree to pay X merchant. I don't know if we have. It'll just be underneath the payment.
It would say it right here. It's basically a line item that says you're allowing this merchant to store your information for future purchases is what it adds. And then
or do call?
Correct. Yeah, in the set call, you'll let us know you've got an initial amount, and then there's a flag for payment type, or billing type. I'm sorry. Billing type will tell us that you want to create either a subscription or a reference transaction, and it changes the verbiage on this page. But either one, you can do an initial amount.
And the difference between recurring payment profile and the billing agreement, right? It's just the fixed versus variable.
Exactly. Yeah, the reference transactions.
Billing agreement using the reference transaction API.
It's
a vetting process, right?
Two separate integrations. So recurring payments is like you want to charge $20 a month. Reference transactions is like maybe it varies each month, or maybe you're charging at will, like maybe with iTunes or something like that. They use the billing agreement engine where you go through and click, I want to buy 3 30-cent items over a month, and then they charge you the 90 cents at will, not at a set time. So that's the difference, is either X amount, every X months or days versus billing at will.
And you have to go through the vetting process for the reference.
Yeah, for the reference transactions.
Thank you.
Yep.
On the last gentleman, just going off that recurring question, can you talk a little bit about the user experience for doing that? As I understand it, you go through the beginning part of Express Checkout. Do you guys do the user interface for setting up the recurring, the monthly, and all that, or am I as a developer responsible for those pieces?
The user experience on your site is really up to you. We're here as a reference. Like our large merchants, we help them, determine what the best practice is as far as where to place on their site. Feel free to ask us after the session if maybe we can see what your website looks like, and we can recommend some placements. Our guides have some references of where to place buttons.
But basically, I mean, it's not like a turnkey web form that you guys do. You're all API based.
Yeah.
For this whole product.
Yeah, for the most part.
Thank you.
Little clarity on the page that you had where we don't, the website, now this is a e-commerce website, it does not know your shipping address, and I can't give you a total.
Sure.
We're weight-based shipping, we'd have to know where you want to send it before we can even give you an option for what kind of shipping. So actually I got a twofold. The mobile allows for a pop-up with a slimline detail page with information that says this is only a estimate and things like that. Can that be used on a website? The mobile connection?
So I think you're referencing the new experience that
Right.
shows the estimated. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
I know.
Not sure which, but there's a flag
it was after
for
that. There we go. Hold on.
for the. Okay.
Well, even in any of these, if you went back to your mobile, the mobile is a small pop-up.
Oh, here's
window.
the estimate. Is that what you're
Yeah.
referencing? So that's part of the new checkout pages I was talking about. There's a new parameter we just introduced a few months ago, where it's the total type. If you set that to say it's estimated, then we'll say estimated total instead of total or total amount. So you can use that with any of them.
In your callback or your callback feature?
Yeah,
callback to
API.
display
The
the
shipping address. Okay, they log in background, their shipping address is sent to us. We are now able to send the order total to you without leaving the PayPal window?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I'm trying to avoid the back and forth, you know, that.
You're talking about, so basically I don't know how many of you have seen this, but once someone logs in, we have the ability to make an API call back to your website, and we'd send back, like, this is the shipping address.
Yeah, their default approved shipping address.
And your server would crunch the numbers and say, well, here's the options. You can have UPS ground as $10 or whatever it may be.
Okay.
Well, this is an example, right?
You're doing fine. That's right in line to my question.
So what would show up is there'd be like a loading image, and as soon as we got the response from your server back, we would display a drop-down that says, okay, which shipping option do you want? Do you want the $10 UPS or the $15 FedEx or whatever it may be? So this is all supported there. And it'll be supported on the other flows as well.
So they can, in a sense, do a commit right then and there. You send us back. Obviously, I have to request, well, which shipping did they pick, you know, and items like that.
Well, when you run the Get Express checkout call, it'll tell you which one they selected.
Okay.
You'll still need to finalize the final transaction, but they're selecting the final shipping method or option on our site, and then we let you know what they selected. That way you're eliminating that need to send them to a page on your site to select that, because that's usually when we're piecing together user experience, we're like, what information does the merchant need to know that we don't provide at PayPal? And that's what we created the Instant Update API for, was to eliminate, we've already got the page, we just display the extra option how you want to ship it. That way the merchant can get rid of that extra step.
All these features are encompassed in Express Checkout. No other products are needed to do this right here.
You can do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, all through the Express Checkout APIs. Yeah.
Pardon me?
All through the Express Checkout APIs.
No, agreed.
Agreed.
I just they don't need Website Payments Pro, a portion of this or anything. Okay.
That's a good point. We've got, I think, 5 minutes left. Oh, I'm sorry. It's also supported for Website Payment Standard, so if you're not using Express Checkout, if you're using our Website Payment Standard product, there's a way of using it within that, too. The Instant Update API, where you can display your shipping methods within the PayPal review page. He's asked if there was a limit on how many options there were. I'm not. 10 options?
10 options, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, we've got the Instant Update API Pro over here. There was another question.
I just had a simple question. I heard two different things already this morning, but I know apparently the Premier account is all you need for Sandbox, but then Express Checkout requires the business account. Is that correct, or is?
You should be able to do EC with a Premier account.
The main requirement there is to be able to get the API credentials, and I think you can do that just fine with a Premier account.
Okay.
But the difference is when you upgrade to the business account, there shouldn't be much of a pricing difference, so I don't think there is at all, but you have a business name instead of showing your email address in the Premier account. Okay. So it's better to have the business account anyway, because at the top of these pages, if you don't send a logo in to display, or if you don't have one set up in your profile, it'll have your email address up there. With a Premier account, with a business account, it's going to show your business name, so it looks a lot more professional.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So to understand all the products correctly, is it correct that to accept credit cards directly from your site, you need Payments Pro, and the Express Checkout, you need, if you want the Express experience, through the PayPal site, right? So you kind of need the two options in parallel depending what your user chooses to do.
Yeah, the Express Checkout product is to complement a credit card processor, whether it's PayPal's Website Payments Pro or another credit card processor. You could use, we have our own, the Website Payments Pro you mentioned.
Right.
We have our own credit card gateway,
right.
But there's also people out there that use, VeriSign, Authorize.net, to process credit cards, and you can take your PayPal payments with the Express Checkout APIs.
Okay, so if I want to allow the customer to enter credit card information on my site, I would use PayPal Payments Pro.
Yep.
But I wouldn't be using the Express Checkout, correct?
Different API, and it's just one simple API.
Right. So it's either or, that's my question.
Yep.
Right. I would use the Express Checkout if the customer is going to use PayPal, not a credit card.
Yeah, so like on your final payments page, if they don't select PayPal up front on the shopping cart page, you'll see Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. If they select that radio button, you're going to use our Do Direct Payment API. And then if they select the PayPal radio button, you'll use the APIs I've been mentioning here.
Thanks.
I think we've got time for one more question.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused by that. On the final page, does it, if I've said I'll take credit cards, does your thing automatically put that up? Is that on your page that is, or is that on a page?
That'd be on your page. So with the Pro APIs and the Express Checkout APIs, the initial step would be on your site. So you're going to trigger that. So with the Pro APIs, you never send them to PayPal. They want to choose like Visa by clicking the radio button for credit cards. It'll expand out their credit card fields. They type them in, and then you just fire off that API call with those credit card details to us, and we'll tell you if it was approved or not.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. And we'll be up front here and outside if you have any other questions about Express Checkout. Thank you.